All right, I pretty much got everything covered up. Got some rags stuffed in the carburetor and also cover the bag, so hopefully we don't get any water in there because we're gonna try and wash off as much of this extinguisher dust as we can before I pull it in the garage finally. Probably not gonna get it all, but we'll get some more of it because that stuff is nasty. And just this is the best time to do it because I'm gonna be pulling this all apart and cleaning it anyway. So plus this thing's been sitting outside long enough that we've had enough bad rains. It's just kicked up all this crap on the car. It's not been driven. That's just stuff that the rain's kicked up from my driveway onto the car. And of course, all the tree junk from these trees. Anyways, time to get to it. What a piece of garbage. This thing's junk. My hose works better than this. I mean, this literally is worse than my hose. So I'm paying money by using electricity to have something that's worse than me using something that would cost me nothing. I mean, a $10 handle versus this piece of junk. I mean, look at that. When I play with the settings, unless I'm using it wrong, it's junk. Okay, I'm an idiot. See, this box is too big to fit my outlet with that little hinge door. So I had to use this short bit of, 6-foot cable, whatever you want to call it. And I guess that outlet is bad. So now we have actual power. And surprise, surprise, it actually works decent. I'm an idiot. Yeah, I'd say it works pretty good. That was all black a minute ago. Well, it's the next day, and it's dry. Not still a little bit of water here and there, but everything stayed good. And when I pulled the bag off the carburetor, the rags were nice and dry, so that worked great. Did lose quite a bit of paint under the hood, and even some on the body here and there. Which there's a spot back there in the spoiler, which we'll get to that. Anyways, it's finally time to push this thing in the garage. Well, after I clean some of the stuff out, because forever I've had a mouse problem in my garage, and I don't want them to chew up this brand new headliner or get in that carpet. So I'm going to take this stuff out. Of course, peppermint the car and put some decon in it and set some traps in the, in the garage. But it's just, I live next to a whole line of farmer fields back there, and you're never gonna get rid of the mice. Anyways, I was just getting this ready to take this in, and I noticed I got a free junk tire. Kind of don't remember that being in there when I bought it, but whatever. Some free mystery. Is it a blanket or a cover? I don't know. We'll figure out in a minute. But pulling all this junk out of here. It's always interesting what you find in a used car. Before we lose the light, here's one more clip. Okay, I got it all cleaned out. And it's, as expected, whatever. There was some wrench back there that all rusted, so I suspect there's a little bit of a leak on the seal somewhere. Maybe the top, I don't know, we'll see. Those seats are just the trash. I'm gonna throw them away. I'll find some seats somewhere, or maybe I'll do a rear bench delete on it or something, I don't know. I went ahead and threw all that junk in here. Just, that was actually a nice car cover, exterior, outside car cover, so that's cool. I'll, shake it off and use it later. There's a lighter inside one, it looks like here, and of course the carpet I just threw in this truck for now because the mice haven't been in this truck, so, should stay out of that stuff and leave that stuff alone. Headliner, of course, I put inside. And I went through it and found a bunch of, typical random stuff, some tools and CDs and whatever. And oh, here, let me show you real quick. Walk around the other side, hop in. What do we have here? Actually, I'll show you this on the bench. This is a dyno sheet for the car. A chassis dyno. So this car is actually dynoed. So that's cool. There's no date on it, but name and everything on it, so it should be good. Of course, typical change in a car. There's about $1.50 there and another $1.50 there. So awesome. I had more typical junk, but there it is. I'll get her shoved inside and we'll start tearing into her. Bam, peppermint oil. I got this bottle years ago off eBay. I always like to bulk buy because I got so many cars I got to treat. I'm just going to pour it in this jar with some cotton balls. Get a good amount in there. I'll take it over here. Set it in the car. Oops, kicking stuff. And hopefully that should keep any pests out of here. I'll grab these dyno sheet while we're in here. And of course, let's seal that sucker back up real quick. Okay, and the dyno sheet. Just kicking more stuff. And the dyno sheet, of course, so we can show you those results. Here we go. So right here, max power. One run was 3 runs, 283, 284, and 287. And roughly 300 torque. See right over here, and crawling up there pretty good. Kind of levels out. Starts to break up and fall off. Right about, we'll say, oh, it's hard to read. I'm going to say that's about 55-ish. So that tells me the valve train is becoming unstable. And that's one of the things I'm going to investigate here shortly and see if what I suspect is right. I'm betting it has stock valve springs, but we'll see here in a minute. Here's another quick shot of the dyno sheet. And actually, it looks like the guy's printer was going back, so they got another sheet with it. But this one's much lighter, and it's the numbers here are, even though they're lighter, are clear, but I mean, there's no numbers down here, so I know from my own experience that means one of your ink cartridges, usually the black cartridge, is low. So, anyways, and I want to point out too before I end this clip, even though it says let's just say 284 horsepower, that translates to about 335 to 355, depending on the percentage loss for the drivetrain, at the flywheel. So, it's not bad for a Vortec 350. Man, I hate when people do this. It's not a good sign either. But I mean, my bike's going to spike because this thing's going to... They glued that sucker on there good. I'm beating the heck out of it. Cool, got it off. Man, they just used a lot of RTV. You can see the gaskets in there. That's going to be a pain in the butt to get that gasket out and clean the valve cover. Honestly, I got a few sets of these valve covers, these the center bolts. I'll probably just sell these at a swap meet or something, whatever, deal with it another day. I don't really care. They're all, fogged up from the fire extinguisher gunk, so I mean it's whatever. I got them off. But I mean I had to pry, up on the one side, and then for this side I took a wrench, put it on here in the header and got the pry bar under there and popped it up. When they're glued that good, you got to just get them started and work it back and forth, and eventually they'll come free. But it's off. Now, we got some good news and some bad news here. I mean, I'm liking what I'm seeing for for a base, something to work with. But I'm getting my light here. First off, you can see right here on the, get the right angle on the rocker, the nuts are hitting the rocker. You can see that right there, the shiny metal. And I'm not sure if that's... we'll get back to that a second later. First of all, I don't even know what brand these rockers are. The springs look like they might be stock, but I want to say those retainers are not Vortex. I don't know. I'll dig them out later. I got plenty of stock new ones around here somewhere. Although the diameter of the springs does look stock. So, I mean... But what we got over here is some good news. You see that right there? That's a guide plate. You see that right there? A little bit lower. Hoses in my way. That's the nut for a screw and stud. Well, you know, the hex, not a nut. The hex for screwing the stud. So we got screw and studs, guide plates. That's awesome. Although the push rods, that dull gray tone, those are definitely not chromoly, you know, good push rods. I mean, they're probably aftermarket, like Comp Cam, you know, the cheapo ones, which are supposedly hardened. You know, they're supposedly good enough for, you know, guide plates. I ran them in the past, but they're not very strong. They've been really easy. So, I mean, those will probably be changed out. The angle looks fine. It's hard to say. I'm going to have to, you know, do my checks to see if it's got the right length push rod. It could be a little short, a little long. It's hard to tell with different brand rockers. Some rockers look funky, some don't. I mean, it looks a little tall on this end. So, I mean, if they got screw and studs and guide plates, they've been machined flat for the guide plates and threaded for the screw and studs. Maybe they got longer valves, because maybe these aren't stock springs, they're just some kind of longer spring, but I don't know. I'll have to investigate further. I'm not going to use the springs anyway. I'm going to put beehives on here. Oh, and before I forget, confirmed 062. These are Vortec heads. So it's definitely 100% confirmed. And like I said, I like what I see. I mean, I'll look at the rockers some more. I don't know what brand those are. They could, I mean, it's that kind of that Harlan Sharp color. I want to say that copper color, but I think there's a lot of cheap eBay ones that look like that these days too. I don't know. I mean, there's other brands. They're probably cheap, but I mean, it's you know, whatever it is. It is what it is. I mean, what I wanted to mostly see was screw and studs. I'm happy with that because I can work with that. I'm surprised they wouldn't cut the spring pockets bigger. Well, it looks like it might be a shim on that one. I don't know. I mean, this retainer is kind of funky. You can see it's kind of right there off the spring. It's just, and there might be a shim under there. I'm going to have to pull it apart and investigate this further, of course, which I'm going to pull apart anyway. To, you know, I mean, we've got the rockers hitting the nuts. That's no bueno. You know, it's a work in progress. It's got potential to do what I want. I'll make it better. Oh, and I also forgot to mention earlier. You can see on the dyno sheet. Where is it? There. 2020. So I know the rear end was put in this car in 2018, so the engine was made around 2018, so the dyno was that. And the fact that they glued those valve covers on, I mean, it's got a lot of blow-by, so. Not ideal. It could be down a little bit from that dyno sheet, even, you know. And, you know, we'll see. I'll get it working good enough. I mean, I'm not looking for, you know, it's not a fresh motor. I just want to cruise and have some fun, have a little bit of power, but it is what it is. So there's that for now. I'm done for the tonight. I'll pry off the other one maybe, and we'll get into the rest of the stuff later. I got all this stuff over here from when I tore down a Vortec a million years ago, and I haven't cleaned up. It's still sitting here for, you know, I don't know how many years now, maybe 5 or more. You know, there's the valves and, you know, everything from the heads. And right here are the retainers. So I could have swore, because I got pretty good memory on, you know, picture-wise, not like photographic, but, you know, pretty good. And here's a Vortec retainer. You can see for yourself. Get a little bit light. Those are not Vortec retainers. Actually, that might be a tad bigger spring. I don't know. Come on, light. I'm hitting the light and it's rolling over on me. Stay. You get the idea. Those are not Vortec retainers. This is a Vortec retainer right here. So I don't know what those springs are. You know, maybe I'll check them with the pressure later, but I'm not going to use them regardless. I'm going to put some beehives on there. I got everything I need. You know, I'll get it going good. This is why I love robo grips. Just get on there, squeeze, and break the hose loose. Bam. She's loose. Pull her off now. I do have some of those fancy hose pincher squeezer things, But I got, gloves are cheap, and well, used gloves are cheap, and zip ties as well. So for now, that'll work. Tuck those out of the way. It's off. This side fought me a lot more. I mean, I don't know if you can see that. My glasses are dripping because I'm just freaking... I'm dripping. Now, you can see some more of the rubbing on here. We get right here, get the right light. I'm down the freaking cord. Right on the sides too, if I can get the... Oh, get off the freaking... Right there. There on the side of the nut. And of course on the front, I'm right there too. See that? That one's a little bit notched right there. And I got RTV on the rockers even. More of the same. Whew. I'm done. That's it for tonight. I'll throw the cover back on, keep the dust out, and that's it. Done. Whew. Okay, so here's some stuff I want to go over here in a second, but before I get to that, let me know if you want to see more detail when I go into doing the valve tray and setting it up and stuff. I'm not going to go too complex, but I just make more of a low edit kind of quick vlog. But if that's not what you're interested in, you prefer just more of the review type videos, let me know in the comments, because I don't want to waste a bunch of time on a video that's only going to get 80 views. So let me know. So I dug out this stuff because here's something that I've noticed a long time ago. Especially this applies to stamp valve covers. This is a stamp valve cover. Those are stamp. I've already misspoke. I screwed it up. Ignore that. Restart. This applies to cast valve covers. Cast. Those are cast valve covers. These are cast valve covers. But something like this up here, that's stamp valve covers, which does not apply to those. Cast valve covers, they have these rough castings right here. You can see that. There'll be a little bit of a chunk. There's a little bit of a raised lip section sometimes. Well, a lot of times it's a raised lip section, all over. And sometimes you even get chunks that'll break off, like right here. Yeah, right here. Look at that. There's a piece of metal right there. And there's pieces of metal all over this valve cover that technically could easily come loose and be floating around in your engine. But that's not the real problem. The real problem is all this roughness around here for the gasket. If you use like a rubber type gasket, like right here, that cuts the gasket. And this is why you'll see stamp covers, in my opinion, on all the OEM stuff mostly, because you don't want to be, or you have like a machine that for like an O-ring type seal, because this rough casting, you need to clean that up because it cuts and ruins the gasket. I've seen it in the past where I pulled it off and there'll be a bunch of cut groups. Now you can get away sometimes with the first use, but if you want to take them off and put them back on, any reuse you're just cutting them up and it's going to leak. And that's why you'll have cases like what these guys did, is they glued the gasket to the valve cover more than the block, because the block's nice, flat, and smooth. Sorry, the head rail is nice and flat and smooth, but the valve cover rail itself is, got sharp points on it. So that's my opinion. That's a lot of leaking, but a lot of cause of leaking. But if you have an extreme blow by, no amount of gasket seal is gonna come out somewhere. So I like to vent my engine is good, but prep is the thing. There's so many cast valve covers, and like I said, this is just something you have to get in here and deburr all these, smooth it out so that it won't cut up your gasket. Another thing I really prefer over these rubber gaskets, which I actually got these for a different car, and these valve covers are not even, this is for I'm going to use on the truck because it's modified here for the alternator bracket and such. So those are some cheap ones I got on eBay. I got a few other sets, but I didn't have time to dig them out for now. So back to the gaskets. I'm not even a fan of the rubber type gaskets because, you know, I think it's the ethanol content in modern fuel, because you always get a little bit of blow by. That just causes them to shrink or get loosey-goosey or whatever. They're just a floppy mess, and they're just a pain in the butt, especially in these center bolt gaskets. Because at least in the perimeter bolts, you can put studs in there and set the gasket on there, and it'll stay in place. With this, you pretty much got to put it on the valve cover and set it on. You can't just set it on the head and then sit the cover on. So that's I totally hate those. Quart gaskets, which some people don't like, they're old-fashioned. These are formed, and especially this type right here, this Felpro 1648 steel core. This is also extra thick because they're pretty much basically 2-quart gaskets with a steel core center. So they're taller. They're not going to have be squishing out. They're not going to have any low spots. If you have any weirdness in your valve cover, or it's not perfectly flat. You got this nice thick gasket, and it's got the steel core to help it hold its shape. So when you put it on there, you set it on there, you flip it around. It's going to stay in position way better than this floppy rubbery stuff. They do have steel laminate rubber, but again, if you have these sharp spots in your valve cover, this is going to cut them up. I mean, it'll cut up the cork too, but these are just my favorite gasket for this style, or even the perimeter style. I like the cork gaskets, and I do not like gluing them to the valve cover. In my opinion, if you gotta go that length, you just need better ventilation and better ring seal, which I prefer better ventilation anyway. But sometimes your rings are just too bad. You just gotta re-ring the engine. So there it is. I hope you found some of this helpful or interesting. Let me know, get into the comments if you want to see more of this blow edit vloggy stuff. I'm going to try and mix some stuff of it, not get carried away and make a 40-minute video. So it's over. We're done. Bye.
Awesome.